interrupt this program to bring you a special news bulletin. The Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, by air, President Roosevelt has just announced.
John Daly, recreating his December 7th, 1941 report. The original was lost to history. It was a Sunday afternoon in Washington, and FDR was about to take the nation to war. Here's David Martin.
President Roosevelt was as shocked as everyone else. He was working on his stamp collection in his private White House study, preserved in this panoramic photo at the FDR Library in Hyde Park, New York.
The phone rings at this desk. It's the Secretary of Navy on the line, and he tells the president that the Pearl Harbor Naval Base is under attack.
Herman Eberhardt is the library's curator.
The first reaction was to shout into the phone, "No," sort of in a state of disbelief.
Within a matter of hours, Roosevelt had dictated and edited in his own hand one of the greatest presidential speeches ever, beginning with the stirring line he delivered to a joint session of Congress the next day.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
But there were moments, says Paul Sparrow, director of the FDR Library, when the enormity of what had happened almost overwhelmed the president.
He was having dinner with his son and some of his closest advisors where I think the weight got to him and he had a moment of despair.
One of the White House staff who was serving the dinner remembers that Roosevelt said something like, "My God, what will the country think of this?"
He felt that he was going to go down in history as a terrible president.
Later that same evening, around midnight, he met with CBS newsman Edward R. Murrow.
Sandwiches and beer were served, and Roosevelt just opened up about the full extent of what had happened in Hawaii.
By then, Roosevelt knew, but had not told the public, that American aircraft had been caught sitting wingtip to wingtip on the runway.
And at one point, according to Murrow, he pounds his fist on the desk and says he's talking about the planes that were destroyed on the ground, by God, on the ground.
Just the perfect example of not being prepared.
I think he was very upset that the military had been caught so unawares.
Murrow left knowing he had a story that would stop the presses.
But he said later that he felt that Roosevelt was really just using him as a sounding board, and he did not feel that it was appropriate for him to run with the story, even though Roosevelt had not said that the meeting was off the record.
It was, says Eberhardt, a remarkable end to a remarkable day.
Most every ship in the harbor has been hit.
And almost impossible to imagine in this day of instant communication. David Martin, CBS News, Hyde Park, New York.